Good morning. My name is Mary Fetchett, and I'm founding director of Voices Center for Resilience, formerly known as Voices of September 11th, an organization that I co-founded in 2001 following the death of my 24-year-old son Brad on September 11th. Voices was established to provide support for those that were impacted and to advocate on their behalf, to commemorate the 2,977 lives that were lost, and to promote public policy reform to make sure that our country was safer. Today I'd like to share my personal story as a mother of a victim and how my loss transformed my life into a victim's advocate. On 9/11, our son Brad was working on the 89th floor of the South Tower of the World Trade Center site. I was working as a clinical social worker in an outpatient mental health clinic. When the first plane hit, Brad called my husband at work and then left me a message at home. Still today, hearing Brad's voice is a double-edged sword. As a mother, I love hearing his voice, yet I'm saddened knowing I couldn't protect him. 9/11 was a defining moment in the history of our country, but for me personally, I think of my life in two chapters, before 9/11 and after 9/11. In the days and weeks following the attacks, I had a range of emotions: shock, despair, and trying to fathom the unimaginable loss of our son, who senselessly died in what I perceived as a preventable tragedy. My advocacy work started shortly after 9/11 when I began holding meetings in my home and traveling to New York City and Washington, D.C. to meet with elected officials to obtain information on the long list of issues that impacted our families. In those early days, meeting with Mayor Giuliani, Governor Pataki, Eliot Spitzer, Senator Schumer, and Hillary Clinton, I met other like-minded family members who had similar concerns. First and foremost, we wanted to know if our loved ones were dead or alive, and if their bodies would be recovered in the rubble in the collapsed towers. We also wanted a memorial at the World Trade Center site, which we considered sacred ground. In addition, we worried about the safety and security of our nation and had mounting questions about systemic government failures that allowed 19 terrorists to hijack 4 planes simultaneously and murder thousands of innocent citizens. At the time, I was also establishing a nonprofit organization to provide support to those impacted. I joined other 9/11 family members to advocate on a number of issues that were important to me: the Victims' Compensation Fund, the notification of human remains, creating a memorial, and the 9/11 Commission, to mention a few. In the immediate aftermath, we began meeting with Dr. Charles Hirsch, who was the New York City medical examiner, and we worked with the OCME to standardize the process in which family members would be notified, if they would be notified, when they would be notified, and how they would be notified. And still today, there are 1,100 families that have never received remains. And we continue to work with the medical examiner to make sure that we can help support their effort in continuing that effort and using advanced DNA processes to identify the 7,000 human remains that they have in their possession. Some of the challenges that we faced in advocating for government reform began with navigating a political system and establishing ourselves and really educating ourselves about very complicated issues related to national security. In order to succeed, we had to remain bipartisan and steer clear of special interest groups and conspiracy theorists. We also built strong alliances with senators and representatives who supported our efforts. And the 9/11 Commission was established. We aligned with Governor Kane and Lee Hamilton to ensure that the investigation led to sweeping intelligence reforms. As the 5th anniversary approached, at Voices, we recognized while the memorial plans were being debated, families were stuck in their grief and wanted to memorialize their loved ones. After much thought, I shifted my focus to working with the families to create the 9/11 Living Memorial Project, a digital archive that documents the 2,977 lives lost in the stories of survivors and responders. Today, the Living Memorial contains over 87,000 photographs that were contributed by those families. Before the beginning of the project, our congressman arranged a meeting with Dr. Billington, who is the 13th Librarian of Congress, to help advise us on the protocols for creating a digital archive. Meeting with Dr. Billington was like meeting the Pope. After several briefings by his staff, we finally met in his office. When we explained our vision, Dr. Billington put his hands to his head and said, "You probably don't realize that you're cutting edge. There are no standards for what you want to do. And can you imagine if someone like you had collected the stories after the Civil War, what the collection that we would have today?" At the time, I didn't realize that we were pioneers, but reflecting back, I recognize now that we were. But that monumental task really didn't stop us. Our staff traveled to hundreds of communities with computers and scanners in hand and worked with the families through the therapeutic process of documenting the lives that were lost. With every photograph, there was a story. And copies of the collection I mentioned, we have over 87,000 photographs today. The digital archive is on our website, but we've also shared a collection of those photographs with the 9/11 Memorial, so it's a really important part of the In Memoriam exhibit at the museum. And for the 20th anniversary, we're actually going to be launching a project to document the 4,700 responders and survivors that have died, sadly, since 9/11. I have to say, for myself and the staff, working on the Living Memorial was an honor and privilege to work with those families and to bear witness to their stories that they told about their loved ones. We met the needs of the families to commemorate their loved ones while also ensuring that the legacy of those that have died will live on for future generations. On September 11th, I could never have envisioned the journey that lie ahead. Advocacy work, as those of you in the audience know, is tiring both emotionally and physically. So as we look beyond the 20th anniversary, we renew our commitment to the 9/11 families to continue to provide a lifetime of resources to them and their families, and to use our expertise to help other communities. But we realize we can't do it alone. It's in partnerships with organizations like NOVA and your affiliates that we look to the future to advance victim services and provide the support that's needed to promote healing and resilience in the lives of those that are impacted by tragedy. So thank you for the opportunity to speak today on the 20th anniversary. And, I appreciate all that you're doing and look forward to our work together. Thank you.